Meeting of the Danvers Conservation Commission. We operate under Mass General Law 131, Section 40, known as the Wetlands Protection Act, and Chapter 26 of our town bylaw, known as the Wetlands Protection Bylaw. After the applicant presents his or her request, the board will have time to ask questions and discuss the project. We'll accept questions from the audience. You may disagree, but just be respectful to each other's position. If anyone wants to come up from the audience, you'll have to come up and identify yourself. And that's it. Let's get started.
Do we want to make the announcement just in case they
Oh.
didn't see it that the airport is?
Oh, a couple announcements. We'd like to welcome our new planner, Aaron Schaefer. Stand up, please. If anyone's in the area of Andover, North Andover, Lawrence, there's gas explosions going on. There's some, I'm hearing 50 fires going on there. Yeah. They're all out? Yeah.
Good.
I was at a meeting in Haverhill just before this, and people were rushing out when they heard the news. And
Wow.
so, well, anyway, just thought we'd mention that, but everyone seems to know that.
And the airport is continued.
And the airport, yeah. If there's anyone here for the airport issue, is that what you're here for, Bill?
Nope.
No, okay, no one's here for
I would
that?
have been, but
All right. That's been, well, we'll get to that.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's start with number one is a request for a certificate of compliance, 5155 Ash Street, DEP file number 14-913. And who's here for the applicant? You want? Yes. All right, what do you want to tell us?
That I thought it was all taken care of about 10 years ago. to be honest.
All
We
right,
had multiple closings, and I didn't realize it was still an outstanding issue, so.
so this is an old project.
Sure.
Staff's been out and looked at it. There's nothing outstanding to be done.
No, it's certainly, it's a 10 or 11 years old.
2006 was?
Yeah, 12.
12.
It's 12. The grass is all
I can't do the math
growing.
in my head. I
The-
think you're
There's
right.
fencing between the wetlands and the living areas. I looked, there's no telltale grass clippings or leaves or things that have been thrown over, so people through the decades have learned.
It's professionally landscaped, so they take it all over.
Oh, nice.
It's not dumped into the
Well, it used to be, things used to be professionally landscaped and still left right there on site. But again, the decades, eventually people learn. So, no, I did not see any ongoing violations, and it all looks stable and lived in and fine.
Okay, fine. Any questions from the
So
board?
this is one certificate for the entire project, right?
All right,
Just have a question.
you have a question,
I
Peter?
thought order of conditions is, it's a black mark on a title. How did these get through a title search?
We have no idea.
Yeah.
I was talking to Jim Sears, who does a lot of the closings over there, and we were totally blindsided. We thought it was all done, because how could more than
Conveyances,
closings
mortgages,
Not pick it up. You're right, you're 100% correct, and we don't know how, no one ever mentioned it until it was one closing, and then we said, oh, no, we've got to talk to Susan here.
And just going forward, would that be responsibility of your attorney? To get to the registry of deeds and
I didn't
get,
come here to throw anybody under the bus, but yes, it would be.
but just in the future, I mean, you do a lot in Danvers, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't like to see this happen again.
I will say they did have the as-built drawing, so whatever happened.
It was, we looked at our copy, it was actually here in the building.
Okay, so that's enough on that. Someone want to make a motion?
So I'll make a motion that we issue an order, certificate of compliance for 5155 Ash Street, DEP file number 14-193.
913.
Motion's been made. Do we have a second?
You said 193.
913, sorry.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Hey, you're all set. Good luck.
Nice to see everybody, thank you.
Yeah, take
Have a
care.
good one.
Okay.
Next matter on the list is request for, also a request for a certificate of compliance for 27 Prince Street.
Continued.
And that's been
Am I right on
continued.
that? Yeah.
Continued.
Oh, that one's continued?
Yes.
Okay, and that's did we continue that by motion, or they requested a continuance?
They requested a continuance
All right, so that's
until our next meeting,
continued to 9:20. Hey, my pen lit up.
9/27.
9:27. All right. Number 3 on the list, also continued for the same thing. This is for the, put the posts in, which they're going to do by the next meeting, right?
Check the status of the placards.
They're gonna be ordered. And as soon as we get them,
Do we provide those and
Yes.
they install them?
yes.
We pay for them?
Yeah, so it'd be consistent.
Hmm.
They're not that, they're $2.80
Yeah.
a piece. The reason that we'd rather be responsible is that we don't want everyone doing their own.
Different
like,
thing.
different.
What about the
unit
posts? They
uniform.
put the posts in?
They
and-
put the post
yeah.
in. I've given
They're all
up-
in place, but
I
no
don't do
signs?
posts.
Not yet, they'll
Not-
be in next week.
You don't do post.
I don't do posts.
Okay, let's move on to number 4.
Continued.
And that's 191 Old Burley Street, DEP file number 14, there's no number. That's also continued, and
Okay.
to the next date is, what's the date on that one?
October 11th.
October 11th. And the next matter, and that's public hearing, a request for determination of applicability, 105 Dayton Street, DA number 2018-05. And it says the applicant is 115 Dayton Street LLC. Who's here for the applicant?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. My name is Scott Cameron with the Moore and Cameron Group, 66 Elm Street, Danvers, Massachusetts. I'm here on behalf of 115 Dayton Street LLC, who's the owner of 105 Dayton Street. Also, 115 Dayton Street was the next lot over, which we looked at a meeting about a month ago. This application tonight is a request for determination of applicability. We would be seeking hopefully a negative determination that we don't have to go forward with additional permitting of a notice of intent. The reason for that being almost identical to the lot next door, it's the mirror image. The only work in the buffer zone, if you recall, there's a wetland on the opposite side. I don't know if anybody from the audience is here for this application. I don't want to obstruct anybody.
Anyone here for Dayton Street? No?
There's a wetland on the opposite side of Dayton Street here. The 100-foot buffer zone extends into the site. You also previously approved an order of conditions for some stormwater work that's associated with the subdivision, Isle of Skye that's going in. So what we're looking at, I colored on the plan, is this section here that is on the property and within the buffer zone. It includes the lawn landscaping, some grading, the driveway apron, and then your utility connections, which are water, gas, sewer, and your overhead electric. We feel that because this is on the other side of the road, there's no potential for impacts to the wetland here, and all the erosion controls are actually in already for the subdivision project, that this meets the criteria for a negative determination.
That's what you're looking for, a negative determination.
Correct.
How long will the work take?
I don't know the schedule yet. There's a buyer that's going to be coming in.
Who's going to do the work?
I don't know who's doing that yet. Contractor's not selected. More than likely.
But I
some
mean,
site
is the
contractor.
buyer doing the work, or is the,
It's not worked out yet.
The developer isn't building the buildings. He's selling the lots.
He's
and
selling
then
the- yes.
Selling the lots, and then the homeowner is contracting with the contractor to build the house.
Yes, and we don't know who the contractor's going to be. More than likely, the same site contractor who's doing the other lot in the subdivision will do the site work here.
so all you're really doing is prepping the lot with this work?
No, this would be for the permit to do the work, well, to build the house, but because this work is in the buffer zone, we wanted to get this permit before you now, so we're ready to go when the construction plans are done for the building. And the house and the rest of the site is all outside the buffer zone, so this is, again, just a small piece in the outer 50 feet here.
Okay. Questions from the board? No, the recommendation is that the project be approved as presented, which I assume means that we would find that this is a determination of non-applicability.
Right.
Is that
So,
what we voted on for the sister project, the mirror
Yeah, the
image?
negative determination.
yeah, we did that, yeah.
Right.
So, I said non-applicability, but negative determination, same thing. Does someone want to make a motion as to this?
I will.
All right.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to provide a negative
Make a
determination.
finding, yeah.
Make a finding for a negative determination of applicability for 105 Dayton Street, RDA number 2018-05.
All right, motion's been made. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much.
I'm impressed.
Got this in the mail. Okay,
Does it have
approved.
your name on it?
Yes.
It does. It blinks.
Yeah, it lights
I
up.
used to have a
It
pen like
lights
that.
up.
Writing in the dark with it.
All right, number 6 is public hearing on a notice of intent for 161 Elliott Street. That's DEP file. We don't have a number for this? Or do we?
Oh, yeah, it's 14-1312.
1-2?
Yeah.
Thank you. And who's here for the applicant?
My name is Luke Fabry from Geological Field Services.
Yes, hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you, sir?
Good, thank you.
This is-
Hi, my name's Luke Fabry from Geological Field Services, and representing the Danvers Yacht Club for this notice of intent. It's a notice of intent for maintenance dredging in a portion of the facility in Millen Creek. This is a Google image of the
If you can come
facility.
around, Pete, anyone who wants to come up front,
Can I put
please
this in a
do.
different place, or-
Well, they're gonna come up, they can turn their chairs, and,
Okay.
where exactly
This
is
is the
Millet,
restaurant?
where exactly is Millet Creek? Can you just point to it there?
Boat Creek is right here. This is the Danvers Yacht Club function, and this is the boat basin. It's the area that's in between.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and there's the, is this the bridge we were?
Yep.
Yeah, there's the bridge we
This is
had
the footbridge. It's
addressed before.
It's underneath the footbridge. And what this is, this notice of intent is for maintenance dredging. It's not a structure issue. The facility's been dredged since 1978. It's considered maintenance dredging. We have permanent rock abutments that basically surround the area. Up until 2008, the facility used to routinely, in the winter, dredge small quantities, 200 to 300 yards of material out of this area, dry it out on land. That land is now occupied with a structure, and so what is being proposed is to dredge this area using the existing stone bridge that cuts across Miller Creek. It's shown right here, and build a containment cell up on the boat basin side, which is detailed in these images here. And basically, using an excavator and an off-road dump truck, dig out up to 800 yards of material out of the mouth of Millet Creek, and dewater it in this location, and send it to an off-site landfill for disposal.
Will any of it stay on site for any length of time?
This will be a temporary structure constructed out of 2 by 2 by 4 concrete blocks, and it will be erected for this and then taken down. It'll probably take 2 months for everything to have dried, and it may go faster than that. It has to have no free draining liquids. And so it'll probably be about 2 months that this is up, and then it'll be taken off for disposal.
And what kind of measures will you put in place so as it's drying out, it doesn't leach out anywhere?
So the containment cell is lined. This is a detail of the side of it. There's concrete blocks. We surveyed this area. The natural low spot in the containment area is in this corner. And it's built with crushed rock filtration in a crisscross pattern, so we can dump into it. The water will drain through. It'll be collected in a sump and pumped up to the existing infiltration basin. And
We have a letter on
it
this.
has a liner,
Marine fisheries.
Yeah.
so it's contained cell. It's a liner, 20 mil liner across it. Floor block 6 feet high on these two sides and 4 feet high on these two sides. You would go in and dips in that direction. There's a collection pit at the end of it, which would be just a sump pump.
Yeah.
The water would be pumped up to the infiltration basin. This is currently permitted and operated under their stormwater management prevention plan, SWIP. We're estimating about 600 yards that we can reach with the excavator. And this cell holds 530, thereabouts at a 4-foot level area. We expect that we'll be able to stockpile, dump into the one cell, and then dig it out and place it into another cell. The water tends to kind of rise up to the surface of this mud, and we've made provisions for it to move to the corner. Once we can stack it, if we can stack it, our maximum height is 6 feet.
Thank you.
Is the,
Take place in the winter months, and then this would be, the intent, this is part of the pool area. The intent is to have this gone and reseeded in the springtime so that it looks the same as it does now.
say it's part of the pool area?
This leads to the pool. The pool is right here,
Yeah.
yeah. So this, is not something that will stay there.
So it's a temporary structure, it doesn't require you going to the building permit or any, to the building inspector?
It's just a containment cell. I don't
Yeah.
know that it
Okay,
requires that.
now, I read that the last time this was done was 2008. Is there, is
Permits
there,
were issued 2008, it was dredged in 2009.
2009? And is there some schedule or frequency this has to be done, or how, I mean, what brings you?
The way they used to do it is they used to take out, like I said, it was dredged prior to 2008, I believe it was 1980. I think it was 1980. And what they would do is they would dig out, they had I don't know if you were around then, but they had this little barge with a small backhoe on it, and they had a tub. And what they would do is they'd fill up the tub, they'd bring it down to the travel lift, the whole tub would come up and they'd go down and it would get placed where the new building is located. And it would dry out.
That's before Parker's Island was developed.
The second building, the newest of the buildings, that's where it would go, and it'd be like 200 or 300, maybe 400 yards in a winter. And that kept this end of the marina open and kept a lot of silt from coming in. The last time it was dredged was in 2009. This could have been dredged in 2016 without a problem. And this is something that they probably need to do every 3 or 4 years in this area. What happens is the sediment that's coming across Miller Creek
Yeah.
goes over this drop-off, is a 7-foot drop.
Yeah, well, that was my question. There's nothing that mandates you to do this, but what brought you up here now? Because something came to your attention?
No, it's just, it's been filling in, it's been filling in, if you look at the contour maps, there are a couple of slips that are blocked from being used, and it's migrating forward.
I see.
And what they'd like to do is resume a maintenance dredging schedule like that, because, the cost of a full-scale dredge is in the millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And the last time it was 18,000 yards. So if a lot of it is coming in from this area, what we'd like to do is keep this clean as part of a maintenance thing. These are all rock faces that come down. There's no coastal bank, there's no coastal beaches, there's only land underwater.
Yeah.
And it's basically surrounded by engineered structures, and it should have been done 3 years after they did the whole dredging thing,
Yeah.
maybe every 3 years.
Yeah, I think we addressed this crossing, didn't we, recently?
The footbridge?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
footbridge has been under discussion with the DEP
Yeah.
starting in 2016.
yeah.
Part of the issue was the footbridge was grounding on
Right.
some of the sediment that's accumulated there. But that is,
Does its dredging help that?
well, it keeps that area clear. The bridge, the structures permanent structure that's
Yeah.
not.
No, we know the history of it, though.
Right.
But I'm just saying, is that now sitting,
It pushes the mud down. So
Yeah.
the mud's really soft. If you stepped into it, you go,
yeah,
anywhere from your midsection up. So what happens is when it comes down at low tide, there's a houseboat there now, and it's pushed, I'm sure its floats touch the mud, but it just pushes it down.
yeah,
And that's in this slip right now. But these slips, if you see, this is -3 now, here. This end doesn't catch it quite so bad because the water comes across the channel here. And it basically is forming a little delta. And the idea is to routinely dig out that delta so that the rest of the facility doesn't silt in as
yeah.
quickly.
When would you do this work?
It would be, I think, realistically, permit-wise, maybe next year. It would be required to be done after September and before February 15th. The off-road dump truck that I was looking at holds 28 yards, but there's a little bit of an incline going up this way, so you'd probably be able to put 15, maybe 18 in it comfortably. So we need to make like 25 trips up and dump. It can only be done for like an hour and a half, 2 hours before low tide and after low tide.
So you have the letter from the
Yes.
the Division of Marine Fisheries was setting the
I do.
criteria.
I have the
Do you agree with
permits.
that? Yeah?
Well, the time of year restrictions are given, and it's actually more restrictive than that. It'll probably be, like I said, from September to February.
Uh-huh.
She just has February 15th to June 30th. I believe that's the winter flammable. The silk curtains, we agree with. We proposed using them. This road that comes across, she's asked for some more information regarding that, which I can provide to her, and I got this this morning, and I haven't responded back to it. But the road was permitted back originally in 1976, and it was part of a large, the marina was actually supposed to extend about 300 feet further up Miller Creek. And the Army Corps brought it back to here, and to access between these two areas, this road was constructed. When the dredging was finished, the road elevation was dropped 2 feet to make it even with the existing tidal flats of Miller Creek. If it hadn't been, I'm sure it would have silted in by now behind it. But it's in the record, and the EPA required them, and the DEP required that this road be dropped 2 feet. So it's covered with a veneer of mud. All the rock is filled in with mud, but the surface of it, if you walk across it, it has like a 1/4 to 1/2 inch of mud. And in some of the pockets, there are 6 or 8 inches. She was concerned with it being a continuation of the mud flat, which it's not. I did take some pictures this morning at low tide, and I'll provide a response package back to her regarding this. I don't know that there's any siltation control that's needed going upriver, because the dredging will be done, the silt curtains here, the water from this is flowing out. There'll be completed dredging for the day before the waters come back up to go over this, and it's a pretty low energy environment coming back.
Do you work the tide or the flow?
This is below water, below high tide, yeah.
Yeah.
This is showing the elevation. It's 1 foot to 2, it's actually plus 2 feet above mean low water.
Yeah,
So you go down there at
there's mean low.
mean low water, you're 2 feet above the water on the ocean side and level with the tidal flats on the inlet side.
So is that what this number by the slips means, minus 4.58?
Below mean, right, 0 is mean low water.
So that's minus, that means it's 4 feet above.
So the permit they had was to dredge to, the way they write them is to -6 feet plus 1 foot of overdredge. So when they dredge this out, there's a hard bottom, and basically they go down to the bottom, which is between 6 and 7 feet below grade, below mean sea level, and excavate from there. So if you look at these numbers, there's a little delta that's formed basically right in front of the river that comes out. It's just dropping its sediment load right there. So every day a little bit more comes out.
So you'll do this, this will be done next, when did you say you would
This
do
would
it?
have to be done after the boating season. The DEP usually permits between September 1st and February 15th.
Does DEP have to wait for an okay from Marine Fisheries before they issue a finding?
Marine Fisheries is part of the whole, yeah.
Okay.
But so what'll happen is, the first step is a notice of intent for an order of conditions. And then we'd apply for a Chapter 91 license, which then kind of goes through the whole notification process again, including Division of Marine Fisheries. We're not going to need an Army permit because the dumping is not at sea. It's going to be upland. So the Army Corps will not be involved. And coastal zone management will, they'll also be taking input, so that there are 2 different levels that will be taking input from the Division of Marine Fisheries. But I've worked with Julian Carr before, and we have everything that they've asked for. And usually what'll happen is I'll reply to her and make revisions to the application for Chapter 91. I'm not sure that they're going to be any, because the time of year restrictions is a permit issue. The siltation will describe going up gradient, and we have the permits for the bridges construction.
How long does the project take?
I would say that it's probably gonna take a couple of months to get things organized. The actual digging component of it would, if we're doing 25, say even up to 30 loads, I would think that we can get at least 4 or 5 done a day, probably more. I mean, they've got to go 600 feet to here to dump, so you could probably do 10 a day. So 3 to 5 days of digging, and then management of it up here.
And what month would you do that in?
After the boats come out, September, October, November,
Yeah.
or December. But it's just, actually doing it on frozen ground isn't bad, but, you know, frozen water complicates things.
Yeah.
Early November would be nice.
And then you just have to address her questions. I understand what you were saying, but
Mhm.
her questions
No, I
on the
was going to
clamps.
prepare a response to this and
Yeah.
provide it to the
Good.
Yeah, so we'll be,
commission and to.
and staff's recommending a site visit on this as well. And are there questions from the board, from board members at this point?
Is this, I think I've heard that they want to make this a routine practice?
This
An
used to
ongoing
be done,
practice?
done every winter, yeah. If you go through the record, you'll see that there's been the way this, the Chapter 91 license is good for, and the Army license that was done, was good for a 10-year period. And then, Yucca would come back to the Concom and request an extension, but they notice an order of conditions. And so that went on for many years, actually, up until 2006, 2005, they were doing this.
So is there an order of conditions requiring the dredging?
I'm sorry.
Is there an order of conditions,
Required to dredge?
no, order requiring that you dredge?
No,
There's
allowing.
not an
Allow,
order
just allow,
there are multiple orders of conditions. This has
Yeah.
been dredged multiple times for dredging, including maintenance dredging
yeah,
that used to be done from the water.
yeah.
The biggest
You said
difference
that.
here is that the material's going off-site and it's being done at just this location because that's what's accessible. The issue with bringing in barges is you have to take apart the entire marina because these things are so big.
Yeah.
They don't fit up here. You have to pull all the piles out to get in here.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
contemplate you're gonna have to do other dredging in other areas, or it's just this area?
Well, this is the biggest concern, but, you know, where the bridge went in, there's some siltate, there's some material that got blown out to the travel lift, and in that area there, it's not hindering operations, but that was just dredged, and it kinda got whacked
Huh.
at that time.
If I can just
Yeah,
add one
sure.
thing. The constraint we have here, although the Wetlands Protection Act allows extensions, you know, it's good for 3 years, and then you can get an extension, an extension, an extension. Our town of Danvers wetlands bylaw, however, says it's good for 3 years, and you can get one-year
Okay.
extension, and then
You'd
you have to,
reapply.
and then you have to reapply.
Right. A couple of the other permits last for 10 years. Water quality certification has to be applied for every time. It's good for one shot. So every time they do this, they'd have to reapply for a water quality certification as well.
So we're sort of middling. We don't allow 10
Yeah.
years, but you can
No, I mean,
get up to
6 years,
4.
You get 4.
realistically, this should have gotten done before the last permit expired last year.
So I think it's something that can be planned for, but it's going to have to be re-permitted.
Each
Yeah.
time, yeah.
If there's no other questions, I'll probably open it up to the audience. Anyone in the audience that would like to ask questions, have comments on this project, you can come up, ma'am, identify yourself.
Yeah, Jane Fuller, 30 Congress Avenue. So my house is right at the point beyond the bridge.
Yep.
Yeah. And first of all, the rock road that you're talking about is not a rock road. It has no permit. It was a temporary road permitted by the Army Corps of Engineers. I did a FOIA request, and I have a packet about this big, so it's not really a road. Who's going to do the dredging?
You don't have a dredging contract.
Okay, so you
We don't
don't
have
know
a
who's
permit.
going to do it?
We don't have a permit, so I haven't even, like,
Okay,
thought
so,
about that at this point in time.
all
There's
right,
some
well,
specific pieces of equipment that are necessary, so there's a limited number of contractors that can do it.
right. Well, this is sort of a little side road, but I'm pretty sure that it was you that represented the Delorenzos in the enforcement and restoration order at the, and I'll just share these with the board. Sorry, I only have one copy for you. And
What is it you handed up?
this is the restoration order
From,
from the town and DEP, town and towns council for the land that Delorenzo had 30 boats on. They had,
do you know what the date is for this, or when?
it's in the back.
2015.
Oh, okay, this is part of this?
And those pictures are current pictures. So you stood here and told us that you were going to spread a wetland mixture and make it meadow-like. Well, to date, those are the pictures. It's scrub, weeds, there's still gravel, and it's on saline soil. So there has been no restoration.
Oh.
My conversation with Georgia Pendergast Wilson before she left, she was going to visit that site and tell the Delorenzos that they had to scrape off everything that was there and bring in clean fill and start the project over. This board has been stretched very thin and hasn't been over there to see what isn't happening over there.
Just the only picture.
So,
One
to
other.
go forward with your, so you said that you had to apply for a Chapter 91 license for this, for dredging? You do? For,
We will have to apply for Chapter 91 license.
okay. And this, so I'm pretty sure that
I remember.
Mr. Splain was going to ask you about
right.
the
Yeah.
floats and the docks right now, so I can share this with you. This is Commonwealth of Massachusetts Administrative Consent Order of Noncompliance. These are the pictures taken on September 8th of the floats that are, floats and docks sitting in the mud flat.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Do you have a concern about this dredging project?
Yes,
Or do you want
because-
things remediated before the dredging project
That's
starts?
correct,
Or both?
yes. And the concerns about the dredging project is, I understand your quagmire with not being able to put a barge up Millet Creek to do the dredging, but quite frankly, that doesn't concern me because I don't believe that you should be, they're gonna go out and buy this machine you're talking about and police themselves on this, just like they did with the restoration.
$500,000 machine. And there's two of them, so they're not gonna go buy,
Okay, well, I don't,
and they don't have the hydraulics license. That's not what they're going to do.
well, I don't believe that they should be able to store it on the public access.
It's not public access.
Yeah. You guys
That
are
is the public
cross-talking, so you
access.
want to address us.
That is public access where he's saying he wants to store that land is open to the public,
You're
correct?
saying it's town land?
No,
No,
it-
no, there's
They-
public access.
Yeah. Yeah,
Way
Peter,
back,
you-
Pete Clement, Danvers Mooring,
Could you
Well,
go
how
to
many
the,
number?
could you go to the microphone?
there's Pete Clement, town meeting member, precinct 3. There's been a history of problems with a lot of the dredge stuff that's been going on. I'll be honest with you, I've been probably in the middle of a lot of it. As far as that road, I'll start with that, okay, that goes across, that was supposed to be taken out way back in the day, and that was never done, okay? And if you look at the depth of water from where that bridge is to the other part, okay, it's like 6, 7 feet high, if you can see it right there on the picture, all right? All that water is supposed to be coming down from the hill. Folly Hill comes down, all right? And it used to drain right into the river, all right? But what they ended up doing was they put in the boulders, all right, and they tried to make a road so they could actually do hydraulic dredging way back in the day with a clamshell, clamshell. And they backed a truck down on that road and they almost lost the truck. So they just left it there. That's why that is 7 feet higher than the rest. This poor lady's water rights were taken away because she can't get at low tide from her place out to the water because there's like 7 feet of mud. And that was never like that before these people started, all right?
well, won't the dredging help that?
No, because it's on the other side of the bridge. When you walk over that bridge, if you do a site visit, do it at low tide and look at that wall of mud, all right? That was never like that. If you go on the other side where the travel lift is, that was untouched, okay? And you can see at low tide, you probably got this much mud, and then you can bring a boat up, you know, probably an hour after low tide. That creek was the same way, but they dammed it up. And if you go there and you ask this gentleman, he'll tell you, they got boulders there, and he just said it. You can walk across it, and he called it a road. There's never been a road across there. That's not a natural road. They put it in there when they first started, and it never come out.
Does that get used now?
No.
The road, what you're referring to as the road?
Does not get used at this point.
Can you just point it out?
Sure. It comes right across, right here. If you look at the aerial shot, you'll see the outline of it. The print doesn't really do it justice. If you
It's
go-
what's referred to as a rocky path?
Yeah,
I mean, do
it's-
people traverse that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You walk right down it. You drive a vehicle down. I'd like to adjust just a couple of things. This permit application is regarding dredging.
I know.
My understanding is that Dan Delorenzo was out with the Concom at the restoration area, and that there wasn't an issue with its progress at that time.
Well, I saw the pictures you passed up. It looks vegetated. I mean, stuff's growing there.
Yeah, scrub and weeds,
But it's-
not wetlands.
It's marine sediments that were deposited by the town, and they are saline, and we planted a salt mix to try to have it acclimate to that area.
And what, it didn't take?
The first year we put it down, there was a drought last year,
Yeah.
and my understanding is that it was looking better. I've not looked at it for a long time. When we go out for our site visit, why don't we include that as part of it? It's not part of this, but we can take a look at that area as well. It's up behind the, it's actually town's property behind the,
This is the issue that came to us in 2015, where the Delorenzos were using that property, then they agreed to remove everything and to restore the property.
Correct.
And they did, for the most part.
they cut it back down, they planted seed on it. Why don't we take a look at it when we go up there? I've not visited
Well, we
it.
can look at it on the site visit.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
With respect to the administrative consent order with penalty, that's been dropped by the DEP. That whole issue regarding the footbridge, I'm not gonna say that it's been resolved to our satisfaction, but the administrative consent order was dropped because the DEP has permits for these structures, including the footbridge, and a permit for this road.
Well, there's a footbridge and there's a so-called road.
There's a footbridge that people traverse across.
Yeah, so what function does the road
This road was
perform?
constructed as part of the original dredging of the facility and the town channel. This was an equipment access road back
Yep.
and forth, because at the time, there was not an access road. There was a right-of-way out to Elliott Street, but there was not a road through there.
And there was no footbridge, probably.
There was nothing.
Yeah.
They were digging it up.
Right.
This was built by, the permit was to dig out all of the clay down to yellow, all of the mud down to yellow clay, which is kind of like a dense marine clay, and backfill it with boulders to a grade that was originally 2 feet above this. This has been dropped after the construction was finished. They required them to drop it 2 feet. And another permit was applied for what was left in place.
Who was they that required that? You said they required?
Army and DEP,
Yeah.
they got permits, and part of the permit for that structure, to leave it in place, was to drop it 2 feet. So it was, this shows as water because it was dredged. This tidal flat has been tidal flat. And this road was at one point a few feet higher. Now what happens is the creek meanders down like this, and it discharges through an area, and the footbridge is elevated, and there was a settlement made years back for the height of that footbridge and for boats to pass under it. And it's all documented in the record. I mean, it's long, it's complicated, and it's involved. And I think that if you need to speak to somebody regarding this, there's contacted the DEP's Chapter 91 license. And we, like I said, the attorney, they dropped the administrative consent order because it was unfounded. We still have, the footbridge is present. They authorized them to put it back after the winter time. And that's a whole structural issue that has kind of nothing to do with the maintenance dredging. I will provide the permits that were requested that include the rocky, the engineer called it a rocky path, but it was called a temporary road. There was an act
And
of
you can-
Congress about it. I
and you
mean,
can-
this
And you
goes.
can get us those documents.
Yes, I have a file for it, and I'd be happy to provide it. You were, someone
Yes.
was going through the archives in this office.
I'm trying to remember, the bridge, that footbridge stays year-round?
It comes
It
out.
comes out, doesn't
It
it?
gets placed, because sometimes this ice is up.
Yeah,
And the
so
ice
it doesn't
comes-
get
comes through.
destroyed.
Yeah.
So usually, I didn't show the whole facility on this, it's shown just here. The footbridge comes out and gets tucked in down here, where it's kind of out of harm's way.
Where did they store it? I'm sorry.
They put it up this,
Come on up.
usually up in this area here. They bring it full. This is North Creek,
Oh.
this is, they just bring it up in here.
So it stays in the water.
Stays in the water. And I know that you have a history with this, and I'd be happy to talk about what we did with, not what we did with DEP, but how this was then resolved
The
with the
boat's
DEP.
navigating
Because these
down the
permits are
creek
there.
now?
I'm sorry, Lou, but I spoke to Ben Lynch
I don't
today.
think so.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he has the permit in his hands. I have the draft approval letters for it. There, it's in the DEP's hands right now. And it's been there for, quite a long time.
I know,
Okay,
because they-
well, we should get back on point here. The point is,
All right.
the dredging needs to be done. Does anybody disagree with that?
Okay, hold on. Now, and what she was saying as far as that's public land, okay? When they, public access. When the Delorenzo's first got that place, you're right, Lou, there wasn't a road that come up. The town of Danvers went to court and they had a settlement, okay? One of the parts of the settlement, there were like 5 things. One of the things was that there was gonna be public access to that land, passive recreation, okay? And where it was supposed to go was like where the pool is to out front. So people could go down there and there were benches, tables or whatever, and it was out front so you could look at the water. It was passive recreation. They decided to move the pool over on that side, so they took it and they moved it back down toward this way, okay? So that's why she's saying, and if you go through your records, you're gonna find out that they took where the pool is, where that passive recreation was, and they moved it down.
And then they
Okay,
changed
and-
where the public access was.
And that's what, excuse me?
They switched where the public access was because they switched.
Right,
where
and
the
now they
pool
want
was.
to take that and do with that,
Are you worried
Yeah.
about a loss of public access?
it's passive recreation area, okay?
Well,
That's,
yeah, and
I'm just trying to give you a little bit of
No,
the history.
no, it's good to
Okay.
get the history.
Okay. Now, they were, from my understanding, when that big thing blew up about them doing all the dredging over there and all the stuff, well, from my understanding on that, I was told this verbally, that they're not to dredge over there themselves at all. That if they need dredging, they have to hire someone to dredge, and it's not to go on land. From my understanding, it was nowhere in the Commonwealth of Mass are they gonna let stuff go on land. I might be wrong on that.
Well,
There are
they-
specific landfills that are permanent,
But-
take dredge salt.
And now, my question to you about the dredging is, how long is that creek? 40 feet, 50 feet? You're gonna get an extra beta to go from one side to the other and pull it out? How are you gonna dredge that creek?
Oh, with it,
My,
You know what, we need to see that too, so if you could just turn it a little, he can come up, he can come up for us.
it's
Yeah.
gonna be
Just
dredged
turn
with
it.
an extended.
if you want me to go over, I'll go over there if you want.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just,
Won't be in the
it's
mic, but I don't.
pretty
That's
simple.
all right.
We have a piece of equipment with an extended reach boom on a excavator. They're used for dredging. They've been doing work over at Crystal Pond in Peabody, and they have these machines that have an extensive reach.
Yeah, 30, 40 feet.
They're not meant for lifting a lot of weight, they're meant for reaching out. So basically, we're going to come down the access road.
Do you mean that?
The Rocky,
That's not that's not an.
the Rocky path?
Let's not call it an access
We'll
road,
come
because
down-
that's not what it
okay.
Okay, it's permitted
All
as
right,
a
but if
temporary
you want-
road, stone-fill road. It's-
Okay, yeah,
What they call
or
it.
dam, or whatever you wanna call it, because
It is a
that's
dam.
what stops her, that's what stops her from
It is a
public
dam,
access.
but it's
Yeah.
permitted, and they permitted it 40 years ago.
No, I'd like to see that.
Well, I will be happy, you know, we.
Go ahead with what you were saying, go ahead with what you're,
DEP would not let me do this. DEP will stop them from doing this if what you're saying is true. They're gonna reach out, they're gonna scoop the material, they're gonna load it into an articulated dump truck, which is gonna drive up this road, this way, back down like this, and dump into this cell. Then it's gonna drive back and back down. and it's gonna do
So this
this.
gets used as a
Can I ask you a
crossing,
question?
Yeah,
This is with no road improvements, with the way that that thing is
but
right now.
not driving equipment across.
yeah,
Am I correct?
yes.
All right, because the last time when they had the dump truck, they almost lost the dump truck. It almost cost them a dump truck and a D8, I think, trying to pull the dump truck out.
Well, it
Well,
did,
this isn't, I mean, it would be an off-road, four-wheel drive articulated dump truck, meant for this type of work.
Now, how far across are they going? They going right straight across?
The worst area is right here. So they'd be, driving across it, yes.
so you're driving, that road, you can drive across that temporary road, or whatever you call it, is that right?
Come down, well,
Yeah.
our site visit has to be at low tide.
I think the site visit will be helpful, to
Yeah.
really, because a lot of this you're talking about, I really need to see it,
Yeah,
And I
the
think that
photo
should-
isn't
Yeah.
Going
helping.
around and around.
yeah.
And I'll get the permits together for you for the site visit.
And,
One more thing, this is the same road that you talked about, okay? That could be like a quarter of an inch, or you could go up to your shins on.
No, stepping off of it, you can go up to your shins. When you walk down it, it's.
In between the
it was built
boulders?
To drive equipment across. We'll walk down it, and I'm sure the public is welcome on.
yeah, I mean, I was gonna ask, Mr. Delorenzo, do you have a problem?
Low tide.
Okay.
Are you saying no?
It's better to have it closed.
For the board, then?
Just for it.
All right. When will you know who you'll have for a contractor?
Well, not until.
We may not get permits for a year.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the last water quality certification I applied for took 14 months for the DEP to turn around.
And it's true that any contractor that you get has to comply
We
with
want 'em to
all
come
of the
before us,
conditions.
yeah.
Would also, would have to
Correct.
comply with all of the
Whatever
permits
the
that they
conditions
have
are
done.
in the order of conditions, the Chapter 91 license, the water quality certification, and coastal zone management doesn't really make conditions, they're just a clearinghouse for permits. But yeah, they
They
have,
make suggestions.
they do. They coordinate to make sure all of the agencies that were supposed to get together on a permit did, from all sorts of different types of projects.
So the dredging now, the worst thing right now is you're losing boat slips because of this?
They're losing boat slips, and the facility is, silting in and will require a much more.
It's just gonna get
extensive
worse.
dredging. Yeah, it's a natural process, it just keeps.
How
going.
long, I'm gonna ask this woman, how long has it been non-navigable?
Before I moved there.
Before you moved there?
1984, yeah.
So a long
And,
time, yeah.
I can just say that Elaine Zidzik here and her new neighbor, they both have homes that boats, the new neighbor, the prior owner, had a houseboat that came up the river to her backyard.
Back before the
Before-
80s?
Before 84.
Yeah. It's been a while then, yeah.
Yeah, well, it only happened because the town of Danvers allowed them to do it because they promised all of us free berthing at the yacht club, which the yacht club reneges on.
Well, I thought what Peter was suggesting, you used the boat on the creek, and,
She-
but
I
she's
can't.
saying no, it's before her
Other
time.
That she could go up and down, yes.
I can't even put my rowboat through that bridge.
Anything else from the public? Anyone? Would you like to go to the mic and identify yourself?
I'm Elaine Siddick, 7 Loring Ave, and I would like to know what is the protocol for notifying the abutters?
Well, they're required to notify.
I didn't get notified. No notification.
Do we have
Contact the
the,
assessor's office, and they provide the abutters.
They provide the people that have to be notified to look on the map
That
and,
would be me. And I went through this 2 years ago when we had a site visit at low tide with the board, And I was not notified then either, and they assured me my name would be put back where it should have been.
Let me see. I know
Can we
you
add
said-
the name? Do we have did you provide a,
The butters
Yeah,
list
there's
that
On the
an
butters
abutters
list?
Yep,
Yeah.
Georgia provided earlier.
can we
this year.
add them on if they
Different-
should be on?
sure.
Or are they on there now?
What's the criteria to be on? there?
What's the last
Within-
name?
Within
Sidzik.
300 feet.
Spell it?
CIDZIK.
The note you use is 300 feet from
No, no.
the subject rock.
I'm on it.
What's your address? Is
7 Loring.
I should have remembered
Okay,
that.
that's all
but
right. You've been there.
I've been there.
There's no Loring
Several
on
times.
here. So is Loring not an area that would,
I can check tomorrow. And who, Jane, you did not get,
I did.
you did.
3 Loring did not get one either.
I don't see anything for
All right, let me
No,
check,
let's see
and you
anything
will
for
be on
Loring.
any other notice we send out.
Thank you.
But I will have to say that it is the town that I request from the assessors a list of abutters within 300 feet. They give me the list, I hand it over to the applicant, who is then required to notify the
yeah.
abutters.
So you may not be within the 300 feet that,
Oh, I am.
you
I
are? You
was
know that
always
you,
in- I
No,
was
no, I'm
always
gonna-
notified prior.
we're gonna confirm that, and
I'm
anyway,
gonna
she's put you
confirm,
down
and
for notice.
Thank
I
you.
apologize
Yeah.
if it wasn't and it should have.
So you'll get the
wasn't done on
names, Sue?
purpose.
You'll get the
Yep.
names, and we have the.
Yep,
And I only have one additional comment about, you mentioned that they're losing boat slips. What about the people that lost access to the river with the footbridge? That would be me, that would be Lily, that would be Jane.
Well, none of us were here in 1980 to address that at the time, so I don't know what to say about that right now.
One more thing.
your
They're-
name?
They haven't lost any boat slips because there's boats all the way up to the footbridge.
No, it's 3 Loring, but your name?
Martinez is the last name, and Lillian.
Lillian Martinez. Did you?
When, did you purchase the property recently?
Yeah, August, beginning of August.
Okay. I'll also see if that's, because I get concerned about things like this.
That would
Thank
have
you.
been prior Linda Godden's property.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Let me give you this
We
back.
send them to
No,
the
that property
address
too.
that's on the list that's provided. So, I mean, it's certified, registered mail, so we're.
And again, they
Yeah.
use the list that they receive from the town, so I have to find out why these
Wilson
weren't.
provided it. It was before August, but it was still, if it was on, the address was on there, it was gone. And I have the certified
Well,
receipts that still come out.
I think at this point, then, maybe we want to talk about setting a site visit.
Yeah, it don't have to
Yeah,
be a low
definitely.
tide.
Yeah.
It'd have to be a
Anyone
low
have a time
tide.
chart?
Do we-
I have a time,
Good,
What day? Saturday?
as long as it's not 5 in the morning.
No, that's
10:03
right.
a.m.
What?
10:03 a.m.
At this coming Saturday?
I can't do this Saturday.
Okay.
Oh.
We
Well,
don't,
that's all right.
that's too soon,
How about
isn't it, Sue?
the following
No.
Saturday?
We can do it.
I'll be
Oh,
working
if
the
he can't be,
following
we
Saturday.
want him there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So,
Is it gonna be on a Saturday, or?
does it have to be? I mean,
no.
I thought you guys liked Saturdays, that's why.
well, I
Do,
mean,
that's why it'd be nice to have the site
most
visit on
most
Monday.
of us work, so if it's a morning in the week, we wouldn't be available. So it could be a Saturday or perhaps a Sunday. I don't know how.
Or it could be, if there's a low tide at 5 o'clock or 5:30, it's
Yeah.
still a little bit, it's
In the
still
afternoon.
light.
Before it gets dark.
Yeah, what time frame are you looking at?
Light.
No, I meant like the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Well, it depends on your schedule. I mean, we meet again on the 27th. I don't see any reason for you to come back if we haven't done the site visit.
Yeah, so the week of the 17th?
Yep.
And then you can always move it to October, and then we have
So
more
the week of
time.
the 17th, just the low tide is, the beginning of the week is at 11:50 a.m. On Friday that week, which is,
21.
Yep.
the 21st, low tide is at 3:30, which you, by 5 o'clock, 5:30, you can still see it, but, so it'd be,
So
It'd be nice to do it dead low,
how about,
close to it.
how about 4:30?
Yeah, I can't do that.
Without, you can't, I know, you come a long way for the,
That would be cutting it close for me.
that's cutting it close. Well, what is it on Monday, the 24th?
Monday, the 24th is, low tide is at, 5:30 p.m.
Where are you getting your low tide off of? Is that for the Porter River, or for the, could be different for the river? Should be the same? Pretty close?
So 5:30 on the 24th?
Monday, 5:30 would be perfect, would?
At 5:37, it's a 0.7 foot tide.
Low tide?
Okay,
It's
so
not
5,
extremely low, it's like an average low tide.
but if we're there at 5:30,
Yeah, or 5. if you wanna.
Well, Peter, what's good for you?
Sunset's at
5:30.
5:30?
Okay, sunsets at 6:37.
All right.
All right, so
That
so that gives us the window.
we have
Gives us a
until 7.
1-hour window, 5:30.
And you can start at 5:30 if I can just catch up to you.
And where do you want us to meet?
Are we gonna be on the yacht club side there, and
Yeah, I don't want to be waving at each other, so which side?
across the
are we
river?
going?
Yeah.
You don't want to walk across that
No, I
quote-unquote
don't.
road?
Well, you know,
No.
there's gonna be, why don't we meet on this side, because this is where the.
What, the
containment-
boat, the boat slip side?
Boat basin side. This
Okay.
is where the containment area would be going, and.
Yeah. Well,
this
can't,
is
were you
where-
saying we can't walk across?
Well, you can. Susan just asked to meet on the same side.
Yeah, I just want us all in
You
the
can
same
walk all the way
place.
across this. With boots.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's slippery, I mean, it's.
we're boots,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's slippery, there's some seaweed on it. But this is where
I'll
you're
use the
coming.
footbridge.
You can see it.
Yeah, well, the
You can
foot,
use the footbridge.
I'll
the
use
footbridge
the
is there.
You can see it is, you know, plain as day.
Okay, so we'll meet on the boat side,
On the 24th.
and everyone can decide how they're getting to the other side.
I was gonna ask, I don't know how to access
I mean,
that.
that was an hour and a half
I'm
after
not
low
graceful
tide this morning.
enough, so it's
Oh,
just
okay,
no doubt
yeah.
I would follow.
It's mucky.
Can I get into the yacht club without, and park over there and then walk across?
Well,
or
you can
no?
park it on the boat side.
Okay.
on
You can park on
Parker
either
Island.
side.
Yeah, you can park on Parker's Island.
You know where the
Okay.
Williams
If you
School is?
park on
No.
Parker's Island, then we can look
It's
at
on
the
62.
access
It's got
ramp,
that sculpture
the
right
detention
Oh,
basin.
Oh, where do you park there? Where's a good,
Yeah, where
You
the
can park all in.
Any
They have
place
the
in there?
They'll be pulling
That
boats
isn't
out.
it?
plenty of parking, Neil?
I don't think so.
All
Yeah,
right.
but it'll
We'll be
be
pulling
open.
boats out and
Okay.
wrapping them for winter, but they'll be, oh, you know, we can park in this area. Just as you come through the gate, the building's on your right, there's a detention basin on your left, and the road kicks out, and we can park right there.
All right. So,
So Monday, the 24th at 5:30.
yeah, now we don't have a, would we want to put this out till October 11th then, or
Well, if we have the site visit then,
we'd have it for the 27th then?
yeah.
Yeah? You think we'll get enough information? All right.
If we don't, we'll decide to continue at that time and
All right.
and
The objective of the site visit is to see what in order to decide what.
Well, we'll probably get a visual of everything we're talking about here.
Yeah.
To look at the road, to look at the depths, to look at what it looks like at low tide, so he can give a better explanation of work, the location of the storage area where they claim they're gonna store the material, and any more questions we might have over there.
I just because I'm absolutely new, is there a moment when you sort of question what the action, like the effects of that action on any sort of wildlife near there, or the fact that maybe bigger or more boats would affect the quality of the water in a particular way,
Say that last part?
would affect the quality of the water in a particular way, or?
Well, I think you did mention that about the water quality test.
Yeah.
No, I understand what you're asking.
No, I mean, I'm
but-
just asking in terms of like that against nature, because that's really what it is.
Right, and that's why it's, in this, when we're talking about maintenance dredging versus improvement dredging, this has been permitted as a structure and it requires a certain maintenance to it. It's not going into new areas and it's not creating more impacts than what were permitted at the facility previously.
So you're
And
getting it back to
So-
what it was like at some point ago? Is that what you
Yeah.
mean?
No.
It's
No,
been
they're not
permitted to
talking
be this
about
type of a
restoring.
structure.
You're thinking they're gonna restore it to where it would be navigable?
So-
I
No.
know nothing about this.
So this is, so when you go in to have, like, to create this whole facility in the first place, you have to go in and you do environmental impact studies. You know, it's a long, drawn-out process. The Division of Marine Fisheries is one of the people that's on the mailing list. So in terms of protecting environments, she had 3 comments. I mean, I've received back 20, 30, 40 comments from the Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries. Then there's the Federal Division of Marine Fisheries, and you go through the whole process. If it's big enough project, you go through NEPA, and they flush out all of these concerns. There's really not that issue here, because this is a maintenance thing that's been going on for the last 40 years. It's a permitting issue that we have to keep going back for permits to keep doing it.
So they did note, the Division of Marine Fisheries did note it was a habitat for rainbow smelt.
Yeah.
Atlantic tomcod shallow areas provide forage and juvenile development for winter flounder. Do you speak to that, or you say you don't affect that?
Well, that's what they put a time of year restriction on.
Yeah.
That you're not allowed to do it at a certain time of year.
Because I
when
think you were
the
kind of
juveniles
concerned with that.
Are coming up river to spawn, like the smelts. You can't work on a riverbank that's a smelt run between January 15th and February June 30th. Because they go up the river, they lay their eggs, they hatch, and then they feed on the banks during that time period. So they do institute those types of protections. So I don't speak to it directly, other than.
But it's addressed by the time by
Well, we noted that
the
it was-
way you do the work and manage the work,
We noted
and we'd
that it
be
was
concerned about that.
A fishway, and so we have time of year restrictions, yes. Some places they don't apply. Where they'll dredge 12 months a year.
All right, you have a question or comment, sir?
Paul Floor, I live at 30 Congress Avenue. I remember him from when he came in here to describe.
You want to go to the mic, although you're fairly loud
He was
anyway.
going to describe the procedure that they were going to remove their material in the soils next to where they invaded on the town property. He said that they were going to come in carefully, going to pull it out and all of that. As soon as the meeting was over, you gave them permission to do it, and they went in with the loaders. You know what you got there now.
How else do you remove it?
You said you were gonna carefully come in with grade all, you were gonna pull it out, you were gonna pull it in. He brought the loader over. Nothing the way that you explained to it that it was gonna happen.
I beg to differ with you. I mean, it was gravel laid down with a dozer.
Yeah,
And so they went
Listen,
back
we
in
can go
and
through the
it's-
meeting minutes and you can tell them how you want.
All right, enough, let's not do that, because,
We're gonna do a site visit over there as part of this site visit.
And I would say that the reason that the permitting is very extreme is for those environmental
Yeah.
issues, so it can be looked at from all sides.
yeah. One more comment, sir? Yeah.
Mike Daly, Precinct 3. Through you, Mr. Chairman, could I ask this gentleman to be a little more specific as to where they're going to put the spoils?
Yeah, I think he showed by the pool area. Would you just point that out?
They're not standing on the property. They're being dewatered and transported to a landfill for disposal. There's a dewatering facility located next to it. It's detailed here and here.
Is the dewatering essentially evaporation?
Not evaporation. This material is very soft mud. And what happens is, like when we put it into a barge, the heavy material settles out relatively quickly and the water comes up to the top. If you let it sit there for a period of time, the solids settle out and you're left with clear water on the surface. What we're going to do is we're gonna dump in a cell and allow that water to come off and drain out.
Goes back in the river.
No, it goes
No?
into the detention basin that's located right here, that does not discharge to the river.
It doesn't.
No, it's never, it's designed to have an overflow. We've been doing the stormwater pollution prevention plan there for, I think, like 10 or 12 years. This is never discharged. It doesn't receive enough water from the facility to ever fill up.
And where does that water go
It
ultimately?
infiltrates back into the ground and discharges eventually, out to the river.
Yeah,
But it goes through,
It's-
it's an infiltration.
goes through the infiltration
Right,
process and then back to the river.
Like a 100-year flood event is supposed to overflow, but this one doesn't get enough water, it's like over-designed, it's just never, we've never been able to collect the discharge sample from it
Yeah.
in 12 years. And we go out there during this, the rain events.
All right. You see where he's you see?
Yeah,
where-
but I don't, that's my problem. I don't believe they have the right to take the spoils out of the river and dewater them on Parker's Island or another site, because there was $1 million letter written back in 1995, I think it was, and I believe Ms. Fletcher has a copy of that letter that stopped the town and the DiLorenzos, who were piggybacking on that dredging originally, to put any spoils
Okay.
on land at all.
I get your point. Can you show us
They had to
something at
ship
the
it out
next meeting? that-
way out to sea.
Okay, hold on. Can you show us something in the next meeting that says you can do that, or that there's nothing that prevents you from doing that?
I have nothing that says that they can't do that, they own the property.
Yeah,
She's got the letter, the $1 million letter that was written by the DEP back in the 90s.
It is true, when the town did the last major dredging, and there was major dredging done all over the channel, that the town originally thought they could dewater at Parker's Island like they always had done in the past, and that proved not to be true.
But that's a
But that
project
was-
that takes
But that,
20,000.
yeah, and I agree, that was
Yeah,
a much
sure,
bigger.
This is a whole different,
can we look in, who do we check with on that? What he's proposing, whether,
I can call DEP.
you can?
Yeah.
Well, we can check with DEP on that, all right? You
Sure.
raise a good point, all
Thank you,
right?
Otto. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. If that's it, I think we'd like to entertain a motion to continue to the next date.
Can I just ask you one more question? What about, is there going to be,
Yeah, you have to come up.
Jane Fuller, 30 Congress Ave, is this going to be a smelly situation in my backyard?
I don't know, does it smell now?
Sometimes at low tide it does.
Yeah, well,
I don't think it's gonna smell any different than low tide.
Well, sometimes at low tide it does. Sometimes. People can't believe that I live on a river that doesn't smell, so.
I live on a tidal, not live, I work on a tidal flood also. And sometimes at low tide it smells like tidal flood. But it's a small quantity of material. It has a very small surface area, excuse me.
yeah, no,
Surface area compared to, so that's the surface area that you can smell off of compared to the rest of the room. I don't think it's gonna add or subtract anything from the room.
What-
Okay.
Somebody asked me about river rats. Is that going to
No,
disturb?
hold their breath forever. I mean, we're strictly land underwater. They're not dredging anything, they're not touching any of these structures, they're just taking the mud that's accumulated in front of the throat of the creek.
okay, so you
So there's-
had your question. Can we,
Well, they're,
all right, we're gonna continue this meeting. Does someone want to make a motion to continue to our next date?
Shall I make a motion that we continue the hearing for 161 Elliott Street, DEP file number 14-13 until...
1312. It was
That's
added.
1-2, 1312, right?
Okay, 14-1312. My conscience over here.
Sorry.
Until our September 27th meeting?
Yes. All right, and you're all welcome back, obviously, for the next date, which is the 27th, and hope to see you then.
We can vote on it, Mike.
Yeah, a motion's been made. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you. Is there a possibility they can do that? Do you want?
There's so many permutations. I'm gonna start tomorrow.
Yeah.
Marine fisheries didn't make any comments.
So at least we could say,
Everybody sees it.
yeah, yeah.
Everybody sees it.
Mm.
And they
I'll give you
should.
back. Is this yours?
Yes.
Yeah.
The last major dredging was.
9 years
I think
ago.
it said in
was it
2008,
nine?
yeah.
It's gonna take, it was long after
Oh, no, you can
1995.
have it.
Oh, that's for me?
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
All right,
Everybody.
next, you here for something, sir?
Yes, sir.
What-
Obviously, I missed the boat on something.
What is it?
It was a matter that was supposed to have been discussed tonight about 191 Burley Street.
Oh, the airport.
Yeah, the airport got continued till October 11th. I'm sorry, yeah.
Is there a way to find out about that? Because not for nothing, but I've been awake since about 3:30 this morning.
Oh.
Stayed in
Well, it was
bed
announced.
all day, but I may have come in late.
You might have missed it. It was announced at the beginning of the meeting.
There's also a
Is there a way to
paper.
find out about that in advance so that I
We
wouldn't
only
try to
found out
rush
this
up here?
morning.
It was
We
just,
just found out
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
morning that they
We
would
didn't have much
continue it.
notice either.
If you
yeah,
give me-
sorry.
Excuse me, sir.
You want to
If-
give your name?
If you give me your contact information, I can send you a copy of the plans.
Sure, outstanding. I just was basically interested in, I live at
See you,
100
Bill.
Brookford Drive, up on Hawthorne Hill. It's the ARIA community up there.
Yep.
And I'm wondering
Lovely.
how something that's abutting the airport in Beverly is going to affect us up there.
Yeah, no. We'll welcome
We
you to
all
come.
received this certified letter about it. Just-
Okay.
My wife was concerned.
Yeah.
And I've had a
About
couple of
the-
people come.
So I hope you come to the meeting.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Come to the meeting.
Considered an abutter
I'll
to the
certainly give it my best
Yeah.
shot.
And why
Yeah.
wasn't
Work some
Lauren-
crazy
I don't
hours.
know.
Yeah, I understand.
Where do you work in the operating room?
I work with the cardiovascular service, Brigham and Women's.
Oh,
Oh, my wife's an operating room nurse. It's like-
Do you
I
wanna
work
give
for
me
Mass
your-
General, so.
Your email?
Great, sure.
Those handouts that were brought up,
And a phone number?
Oh, she didn't take her,
Of course.
where did
Oh,
they
here's
end
a
up?
pen.
well, we might as well just keep them, I guess.
We'll
Keep
Yeah,
them
keep
back.
the photos.
Yeah.
Do you want to
We'll
take those?
Yep.
Yeah. And where did this come from? Was that also
That was also
part of that package, so
And
we
this
keep it
is-
together?
This is all history, some of which is,
I've seen some of it from the,
Yeah. Do we have any
Oh, wait,
minutes to
minutes?
Yes.
approve? So there's
Yeah, we
one
can
more
do
matter, is who's looked at the minutes for 8/9/18?
I did.
I have.
You did?
I did,
Yeah.
fine.
I
Fine,
had,
motion?
I had one comment,
Go
just
ahead.
the bit where it says who made a motion on the first subject, there was no name for who made it. But otherwise, it looked fine.
You want to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion to accept
Accept the minutes?
the minutes for, August 9th.
Second?
a second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. I think that's it. Does someone want to make a
I
motion
just
to
have a
adjourn?
quick question for the board.
All right.
I have an opportunity to take a class in October. It's on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Would we feel comfortable having a quorum if I missed those two meetings?
What dates are they?
it's good.
It would be the October 11th
want it?
and the 25th.
Thank you very much.
Some of these nickels just fell on the floor.
Yeah, I'm all right. I mean, I know I'll be here. Will you be here, Neil?
All right, so there'd be a quorum.
We'll have a
Yeah,
quorum.
because Michelle is not gonna be able, she's moved. She's moving.
All right,
so
but we'll
she's not-
have Chelsea, we'll have Neil,
For
we'll
the
have
11th?
myself.
Yeah, so you
So
have
you'll be
three.
here, Neil, for those two
Stay
days?
well.
So we have a quorum.
Yeah, but I know for the 27th, I might not be here.
What
It's
about
coming,
Jean?
the 27th of September.
Yeah,
That's September. No,
yeah, no,
Yeah.
for, October 11th, I should be fine, though.
Okay.
And October
So I need-
25th,
So I need you three here for the
Yeah.
27th.
you'll have us.
Okay.
Yeah,
What about Jean?
Jean's back in school.
she's back in
Oh, I thought
school.
that wasn't until December.
Yeah.
No,
All right.
she's back.
Does someone want to
She's
make
back
a
to
motion to adjourn now?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right?
Okay, that's it,